the Prophecy Club. If you were to ask the typical person on the street, hey, how long is it until Jesus returns? Probably 80% of the people out there, maybe even a lot of the sinners, would say, oh, he could return at any moment. Oh, it's not very long. Okay. If it's not very, I don't agree with them, but if it's not very long until Jesus returns, then we ought to be seeing some of the signs associated with his return, like, let me read Isaiah 24, verse 1. Behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty. That means the people there are pretty much all dead. And maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. That means that when Jesus is getting really close to return, one of the things we'll see is the earth will turn upside down. Oh, Stan, you got that wrong. Oh, really? Let's go on down to verse 19. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. It shall be removed like a cottage. In other words, it's going to move like a hammock swinging in the wind. He makes a new heaven and a new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness. But one of the signs, and this is what we're talking about for the next several broadcasts, is that if Jesus is getting close to returning, then we should be able to see that the earth is getting close to turning upside down. Oh, Stan, we're nowhere close to that. Well, wait a minute. Did you realize that the magnetic north is moving? And matter of fact, I would even say that the earth is in the process now of turning upside down. You didn't hear about that. Well, that's what we're about to discuss for the next several programs, is how it is already in the process of turning upside down. Now, the guest speaker that we had in has an awesome DVD. It's part of our gift offer. His name is Lloyd Carpenter. He studied the coming pole shift for over 20 years. His topics include the Earth's wobble, Earth tsunamis, earthquakes, weather pattern changes, tornadoes, hurricanes, mudslides, floods, droughts, volcanoes, plate tectonics, sea floor spreading, hot spots, melting ice, the ring of fire, and a whole lot more. The name is called The Coming Pole Shift, and it's normally valued at $30, but right now you can get 3 DVDs in what we call our catastrophe gift offer. You get End of Times by Augusto Perez, The Coming Pole Shift by Lloyd Carpenter, and Signs in the Sun, Moon, and the Stars by John Moore, all for a gift of just $25. prophecyclub.com or 785-266-1112. Let's go on over and listen to The Coming Pole Shift by Lloyd Carpenter.
Mauna Kea is about 30,000 feet from the ocean's floor, and you measure a volcano from its base to its tip. And we decided to get married at the top of Mauna Kea, where the observatories are up there, just as a romantic thing to do. And we were the first civilian couple ever to get married up there. And, it was in the newspaper, stuff like that. But the bottom line is we just thought it was a romantic thing to do. If you see Kilauea volcano and you stand in front of it, at various times, it looks just like this. It looks just like the flames are going up, and that sometimes they get so heavy duty that the lava will float all the way down to the sea. And actually, the real estate on the big island of Hawaii is always increasing. The island is getting bigger and bigger. You can't live in some of those areas, but that's where it is. Mount St. Helens, Face of Jesus, this is sometimes called. I have more about this in my video, Face on the Ocean Floor, that the Prophecy Club did. But the bottom line on this is not in the same category as images that are in the ocean, because, again, probably 2 minutes after this image appeared, it was gone. And so did God do it? Maybe. But it's not in the same category as things on our ocean's floor that you can see. Volcanoes are a beautiful sight. And when I think about where the eye is at Manzanillo, Mexico, right there, right at the very start of the sight line, is one of the most terrifying volcanoes in the world. Every 2,000 years, it destroys Mexico City, every couple thousand years, and then they go in and they rebuild it again. And it's only because volcanic land is very fertile. So in Japan, in America, and all over the world, we have earthquake and volcanic activity that's happening all the time. This is Mount St. Helens from space. And so there's our diagram of a volcano the way we usually see it. But Yellowstone is different. And the Science Channel had a special recently called When Yellowstone Erupts. And that's because they're saying it's supposed to erupt. It erupts like Old Faithful every 600,000 years. and the last time it erupted was 640,000 years ago. So they're saying, why hasn't Yellowstone erupted yet? And then just in the last few years, within the last decade, they had to cordon off part of the park because gases are reaching up and they're actually killing the bison there. So we're in a situation where if Yellowstone did erupt, that it would create, and there's lots of earthquakes, by the way, on Yellowstone also, it would create a force so terrific that it would, in effect, the beauty that you look there would create an environment which would cause more than a Pompeii. Within 600 miles of Pompeii, you would have people looking like this. Anyone living within 600 miles. So the Yellowstone volcano is on the verge of erupting, and if it happens, the ash plume would, they say, destroy much of North America, that the temperatures would drop as much as 16 degrees, affecting crops terribly. They are using the terms to the very brink of extinction, and this is a very valid science source. So to say that our Earth is about to tip over on its axis, that the volcanoes are part of why that would happen, and that it happens regularly in a very great timetable that we can look at, then we know for sure that it's something to concern ourselves with. The Yellowstone area has actually risen in elevation as much as 170 feet in the last 50 years. And it all looks flat when you're there. And Yellowstone is 50 miles wide almost, and almost 30 miles deep. So we're talking about an area that is just the cauldron, and they are saying that it is in the event right now is in the process of erupting. They're not saying it's about to erupt. They're saying it's already begun to erupt. So we have these super eruptions. They're more likely than even an asteroid hitting the Earth, and the plume can go wild. And the text here that you see on here, I recommend you put your camera, your machines on pause control and look at the evidence here, because it's quite startling. And I think the only thing more exciting than that is the idea that our government thought that it was fun to put a nuclear warhead base right next to Yellowstone, so that if anybody wanted to, in fact, take out our warheads, if a first strike they thought happened because of an accidental suitcase bomb, one of the first things they would do, rather than bomb a city, is bomb our bombs. And so we have a scenario here that we can look at, and something that we should just really give us pause for thought. When I think about the sun, that orb in the sky that is exactly 330 times larger than the Earth, it just amazes me how deliberate our God is. And there are anomalies, there are things happening on the sun right now that are strange, and they are high impact, and they are very, very exciting to the scientific community. When we look at this graphic and it shows the size of the sun in comparison with the Earth, it's absolutely amazing the influence that the sun has on the Earth. The sun is a beautiful orb, and now for this age that we live in a time when we are able to analyze the sun, when we're able to look at the solar flares, when we are able to photograph it and look at the changes that are taking place on the sun, and it is just a very exciting time. You know, there are people who say that we never landed on the moon back in 1969, in July 69, and I think we landed on the moon, okay? But I'm saying that there are people that say we didn't because of certain anomalies that were happening at that time, and one is that there were some horrific solar flares that were happening, and that, as it was coordinated with the Van Allen belt, they're saying there's no way that a rocket ship could have gone through that area and not just fried. But NASA released evidence and information, and as we know, NASA doesn't lie. And they said that there were windows where they would have been able to go through there quite well, and that we did in fact go to the moon. But the magnetic field of the moon has actually doubled since 1963. And when Russian scientists announced this, other people in the world said this can't be, but then they also observed themselves after looking at the evidence that it was in fact true. As a matter of fact, not only has the moon's magnetic field doubled, but the magnetic field of all of the planets has increased substantially, every single one of them except the Earth. For some reason, the Earth's magnetic field has actually lessened. And so one of the things that the scientific community is saying is, how is it that the sun's magnetic field would have doubled